What happens when you take one of the most legendary actors of all time, you slap him into the heart of Scotland's Highlands, and you chuck a bottle of whiskey in his hand? Well, you know what? That's precisely what Glenmorangie has just done. They've partnered up with Harrison Ford to release their latest marketing campaign, which is taking the world by storm. But the real question I want to ask you is this just a marketing gimmick? A way of leveraging the success and renown of a well-established A-lister actor? Or is this actually a reinvention of whiskey marketing? Well, let's find out. Hey, I'm Rian from A Dram Half Full, and whether your glass is half full or half empty, I'm here to help you guys refill it, so welcome to the show. I am currently dealing with some technical difficulties, so I'm utilizing a different microphone today, so bear with me as I dangle this cord in front of all of your beautiful faces. But we're not here to talk about my microphone or my technical difficulties. We're here to talk about Glenmorangie and their latest marketing campaign featuring Harrison Ford. I mean, it is setting the world on fire. It is blowing everybody's mind. And every time I jump on Instagram, a picture of Harrison Ford standing on top of a hill, surrounded by heather bushels, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, in a kilt, holding the bottle of the Glenmorangie 10. It's innovative, it's exciting, and it's dramatic. It's really, really interesting. So Glenmorangie has partnered with Harrison Ford to produce their new marketing campaign. They have utilized director and filmmaker 𝙬𝙖𝙧𝙧 to film this episodic series of mini commercials that kind of like stitch together to a broader story. And it's really, really interesting. So Harrison Ford, I'm going to set the scene for you. So if you go watch it if you don't want spoilers. Harrison Ford, starring himself, has received a call from, I believe, his manager. And he's saying that he's got this vision of going to Scotland and just sitting in front of a fire, drinking smooth, good, bold Glenmorangie 10. And you know, he ends up going over there to film this campaign with Glenmorangie. And there's this element of like reluctance and resilience to kind of like adopt and adapt to something outside of his original vision. But slowly but surely, he starts to absorb and adapt a lot of the culture, mixing in a lot of his gravitas and humor. And I don't know, it's really fun and engaging to watch. It actually acts as like a mini TV series. And I think that's why it's capturing everyone's attention. I haven't seen any other distillery, let alone any other product or consumable, produce a marketing campaign like this. It's literally a mini TV series. They go, each episode's like a minute or two long, so it's not a long duration, but it's very unique for this format. But anyway, he gets over there and he meets all of these like, you know, distillery workers and warehouse managers and things like that. And I think it's really beautiful how they've tied in all of these people into the TV commercial, because it provides a sense of like realism, which I think the consumer base is really looking for these days. Like, consumers really want transparency with their brand. If we are going to do a little bit of market comparison, let's look at brands like Johnny Walker, for example. I mean, they feature the walking man as a symbol of perseverance, and it's kind of like an encouragement to just keep moving on. It also positions itself as quite a sophisticated brand, and, you know, they really do inspire that sense of like, I don't know, like just keep moving, just keep walking. And I think that is very resonant to a lot of people in the industry. But it does lack a little bit of irreverence, or not even that this marketing campaign has irreverence, but there's this kind of like playfulness that you don't see a lot of the time in the industry. In recent years, Glenmorangie has been redefining their brand. They've been, you know, I've actually got a couple of really good examples right here. These were sponsored by my dad for the episode, so thank you, Papa Bear. But we've got the Glenmorangie 10 in the original packaging format, and then we have the updated design aesthetic that they've gone with. So you can see just by looking at the two here comparatively that there is a drastic difference between their positioning, but subtle differences between the evolution of the brand. You know, we're using a very similar color palette, but obviously we're turning up the saturation and the vibrancy of that orange to really just kind of like make it a little bit more trendy and help it pop out on shelf. You know, there's brand elements that have been simplified. They've gone for a typeface that pays homage to its predecessor, but clearly like brings itself into the modern age. There's a lovely simplification of their signet icon, which is their core brand mark, which you'll see on a lot of their packaging and products, which has been drastically simplified and boldened. I think it really would be a lot more effective as a brand mark in the modern era. We've gotten rid of a lot of the traditional, quite dated sort of textural patterns that linger all over the packaging. And we've replaced that for a more elegant and curvy, kind of like smoky kind of texture pattern that makes its way all over the packaging, which is quite cool. But the key feature that I want to point to here is actually the shape of the bottle. The silhouette has been drastically emphasized. I mean, it's utilizing a very similar shape, but it definitely is enhanced to be a lot more curvy. We've really drawn out the bodily top and tapered it in and out, just kind of emphasizing the curves. It almost feels a little bit more like a wine bottle nowadays. But I think what this means and how it relates to the campaign, we can talk about now. So obviously we're moving from tradition to modernity, but there's still a lot of elements that remain harmonious to their legacy. Like, they're paying homage clearly to their past, and they're not getting rid of any of that. They're just turning up and fine-tuning all of these elements to make it more relevant and more appealing to a broader demographic without severing ties to their core audiences, the ones that have really paved the way for where they are today. But how does it compare to the bottle? Let's try some Glenmorangie 10, shall we? I don't know why that had to be so dramatic. Let's have a sip of the Glenmorangie 10, guys. Oh my gosh. Is that the Cork Pop winner of 2025? It's a candidate, so stay tuned for the results at the end of the year. Alrighty. So oh my gosh, I almost said straight off the bat. I have a knack of saying the same thing over and over. You guys will probably be familiar with that, but I'm going to try and avoid saying straight off the bat. Looking at this, I noticed that it is delicate gold, but when you see it in the bottle, it presents as more like orange, like a proper gold. Whereas this is actually very dainty and quite delicate. There are some subtle legs in there, but it's really not sticking to the bottle to the glass too much. It is very beautiful though. Now let's go in for the nose. Okay, so straight away, I'm getting flashbacks, man. I bought this bottle in 2019, I think it was. So this is when I first started my whiskey tasting career. And it is just a massive throwback. I'm getting it's a time capsule, honestly. Woo! Okay, so it is very, very beautiful. It's quite elegant in how it presents itself. There is a clear bouquet of orchard fruits. A lot of pear. Like, if you were to just kind of mash up and mangle a pear a little bit, you're going to get a lot of the kind of juices and the oils expressed into the air. And I feel like so much of that is coming through into this. Besides that, there is a cloudy apple juice note that just kind of swivels around in there. Strange. I think I'm getting a very, 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 very subtle licorice note. But that's something I've actually never pulled out of this bottle before, so that's a little bit strange. There's a little bit of spice. I'm not getting a huge amount of the oak influence. I'm getting a lot of fresh fruits, a lot of very green apples and pears, a little bit of not a grassiness, but there is that kind of green, herbal, almost leafy sort of note, which is coming through. But enough fluff. Let's go in to taste this thing. Cilantro, guys. Righto. Okay, so I believe this is bottled at 40% ABV, and let me just quickly double check that for you. exactly. 40% ABV. So I'm not the biggest fan of distilleries that bottle at such a low ABV, just because, I don't know, like after a while, your palate kind of gets a little desensitized to, you know, like something like this. But it's very beautiful. Like it's elegant, it's refined. It's kind of like if I were to imagine single malt Scotch whiskey, this is kind of the first kind of like palate flavor profile that I really start to think of when I think about that. But I mean, there's not a drastic amount of like oakiness in there, but there is a little bit of like warm toasted baking spices, a touch of, you know, that oakiness, but it's subtle. It's very subtle. Beyond that, there's like a blanket of like caramel, maybe. It's kind of soft and a bit watered down, but I feel like there's this creaminess to it. It might just be, rather than an actual flavor, it could even just be like a mouthfeel sort of experiential thing, rather than a note that I'm picking up. But it's definitely present, whatever it is. Quite enjoyable. You know what? It's delicate, it's refined, and it's quite nice. I think it's a beautiful dram, and it's probably a really great starting point for somebody that's joining the whiskey community. If you've given it a shot and you like it, let me know. But the big question that I really want to ask you guys is, how do you find the campaign? How do you feel it resonates with the brand? Is it a step forward in ingenuitive creativity, or is it just a bit of a gimmick? I'm really genuinely curious to see what you guys think about that, because for me, I felt it captivated my attention straight away, and it really does set an example for how to create something that's bespoke, very unique, whilst remaining true to your legacy and your history and your heritage, but, you know, like keeping it fresh and modern and really helping connect with a different audience and a different demographic. You know, the spirit is a great bridge for people that are entering the industry, and I think this campaign is a great bridge for people that want to experience whiskey. So let me know what you think, and as always, guys, may your days be as full as your glass. Cheers.